Today, we're talking about education. We're talking to Stacy Davis-Gates. She's the president of Chicago Teachers Union, but before that, she was a social science teacher. And before she was president, she was executive vice president. And she started something kind of different. They walked out, historic. 15 days, 2 weeks, teachers walked out of CPS. And she negotiated a historic contract, smaller classes, a nurse and social worker in every Chicago public school, and sanctuary for the migrants and for the homeless. She's also raised millions of dollars to support teachers going into politics. How about that? And today we're going to talk to her in full about education at large. I wanted to talk about education with you because we see you on the news, sometimes adversarial, and we see you fighting. But I don't think we always know what you're fighting for and about. So tell us, first of all, your platform this year for the teacher's contract as you negotiate.
Well, thank you for having me. So much to talk about, and honored to have the opportunity to do this with you. We're fighting for the school Chicago students deserve. Since Karen Lewis took over the union back in 2010 as president, we've had this idea that the Chicago public schools can be better than it has been. That Black children who attend neighborhood schools on the south side and the west side of Chicago, that they get to have a fully resourced school day. What does that mean? It means that far too many of our schools are without history, physical education, reading, English, art, a full complement of the school day.
You're talking about curriculum.
If you boil school down to just two subjects, reading and math, then young people don't want to engage. But when you have a full dimensional curriculum, a school day, young people want to be there, and if young people want to be there, then everyone else, they want to be there as well. So we've been pushing for that. So many of our school communities don't even offer a fall, winter, spring sports program for young people. So many of our schools don't have school newspapers or student government opportunities for our young people. These are things that tether young people to the school district. So when I hear critics talking about an absenteeism, or when I hear them talking about lethargy with our young people, I will have to ask other questions. And those questions are, what are you offering them? What are they engaged with? What are they giving you in return for what you are giving them?
Kind of a proactive approach. Let me ask you this, because we hear this, but I don't think we always understand. We talk about types of schools. So explain to us, what is a charter school?
Well, Chicago Public Schools, since 1995, has run what I would call a very unhealthy experiment on shifting the focus from neighborhood schools. In most communities all over this country, children walk to school, or they are within a safe distance from their school community. So it's a neighborhood school system.
So you kind of you go to school according to where you live.
But because Chicago has such segregated living spaces, there have been attempts to do two things: to try and engineer integration through our magnet and selective enrollment spaces. And in our charter spaces, it has been an experiment to try and marginalize the number of resources that go in there and still call it public education.
So what's a magnet school?
Well, a magnet school is a school that has a magnet that draws people in, so it can be a world language academy. And so we have a number of world language academies throughout the city.
Arts.
Arts is another magnet situation. And so so we have a lot of things that are offered in various locations through the city, which quite frankly put a burden on the families because our transportation system in the city as it relates to our schools, it's not congruent to the need. And so what that does is that it puts a lot of responsibility on parents to be able to get the young people from their home to their school. And we know that Black children on average have a 2-hour commute before and after school in the city because of the amelioration of neighborhood schools on the south side and the west side of the city.
Okay, and then selective enrollment, what's that?
Well, selective enrollment, we have a number of those in the city. In fact, we have selective enrollments that are nationally ranked. Places like Lane Tech, places like Northside College Prep are at the top of national rankings. Whitney Young would be another one of those schools. And those schools are schools where students have to test in. And what we find at those schools, especially within the last decade plus, is that the number of Black children that are admitted into those schools has declined precipitously. And so what that means is that those spaces which were supposed to engineer, manufacture, integration, that doesn't exist with them either. So we really need a reset button in the Chicago public schools to audit if in fact Black children are receiving the full benefit of a neighborhood school education, and if in fact they are being refused entry into our selective and magnet programs.
We're talking about education, and we're talking to somebody who knows what she's talking about. That would be Stacy Davis Gates. Don't go away, we'll be right back with more.
At ComEd, we understand a little help can really make someone's day. That's why we provide financial assistance and billing options to help you pay and manage your electric bill. Use the ComEd Smart Assistance Manager to discover bill assistance and savings options designed with you in mind.
The future of a community will always depend on the health of its newest members. That's why Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois is launching its new Special Beginnings program, elevating maternal health care to new levels, including advanced technologies, tools, and personal advocacy teams, ensuring new moms access to the right care at the right time. With each promising newborn, the promise of a brighter future also needs to be delivered. Fortunately, at Blue Cross, being there from the beginning will always be our reason for being.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message because you work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
That's the sound of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, saving you up to $500 on your energy bills, with rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products. So you can enjoy coming back to a home full of savings. Visit ComEd.com/home savings.
The future of a community will always depend on the health of its newest members. That's why Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois is launching its new Special Beginnings program, elevating maternal health care to new levels, including advanced technologies, tools, and personal advocacy teams, ensuring new moms access to the right care at the right time. With each promising newborn, the promise of a brighter future also needs to be delivered. Fortunately, at Blue Cross, being there from the beginning will always be our reason for being.
Trump's Project 2025 agenda will give him unchecked political power with no guardrails, and it would take Black America backwards. Project 2025 would strip away our voting rights protections, and it eliminates the Department of Education. It would also require states to monitor women's pregnancies. It bans abortion and would rip away health coverage for millions. Kamala Harris will stand up to Trump and his MAGA loyalists' dangerous plans to control our lives. Because Trump is out for himself, while Kamala Harris is for the people.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Okay, so now we've seen change. We just saw recent change where there's been a strategic plan, 5-year plan put forth. And in doing so, we're going to see some different things. I want to see if you agree with them, good or bad. One of which is testing. So standardized testing is not going to be so relevant, and we're looking more at wellness and emotional health. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, what I would say about the 5-year strategic plan, broadly speaking, is that my members feel like it is a copy and paste from our contract proposals. So the strategic plan, our contract proposals, and quite frankly, the mayor's transition report, they are basically carbon copies of each other. They are in, dimensional alignment, if I may add. The issues that we are up against is whether or not the leader of Chicago Public Schools, Pedro Martinez, will be legendary, and that he will work with all of the stakeholders, families, students, the educators in our school communities, the unions that represent them, the mayor of Chicago, to actually win the revenue that we need to offer this strategic plan in dimension in all of our school communities.
So we are at a shortage. We're experiencing a budget shortage. About $1 billion for the city. And isn't it about $1 billion for CPS?
Well, it's more than that. So look.
So how do we get the raise that you want? And how do we get all the things that you want in the schools when money is really a problem? How do we do that?
Well, money is only a problem when we're talking about public education in Chicago. Everywhere else in the state where there are affluent families, where there are families that are not as melanated as the ones here in the city, this is never the discussion. But what I will say is that this year that discussion will be broadened, because every single school district in the state of Illinois will be looking at a fiscal cliff. So this is not an issue singular to the city of Chicago or the Chicago Public Schools. In fact, this is an issue that our governor, our state representatives, and our state senators are going to have to work diligently on this upcoming legislative session, because every single city that has school districts will encounter a budget deficit.
We're also going to see something different in our schools' governance, and that's elected school board.
Isn't that wonderful?
Half elected,
yes,
and then half appointed,
yes,
still by the mayor. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's something that our union, with a coalition of community groups, families, and students have worked on for years. And even before our union became an advocate for an elected school board, there's been a history of this. Look, we saw it as a voting rights issue, that this largest school district in the state of Illinois, the school district that educates the most Black children in the entire state, the third largest in the country. It is embarrassing that this is the first time ever in the history of this district that Black parents, Black families, Black people in the city can provide accountability to the policies that have not met their needs for generations. A part of our democracy is to give people an opportunity to engage, to actually effectuate change in a way in which that benefits them.
To make decisions.
To make decisions. And in a world where democracy is under threat, I'm so very proud of Chicago for expanding democracy.
How do you feel now? Education, that's the governance of education.
Yes.
But the culture of education is changing too. What's your thoughts on two things? The phones in the classroom by students and AI coming your way. How do you feel about that?
These are very good questions. These are things that we are debating and discussing within our union. So the culture of education is changing. I think our young people are way smarter than any other generation before them.
But they're learning differently.
And they are learning at a rapid pace differently. So it begs the question of how we situate the classical education within a technologically advanced world that is rapidly changing.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're talking to Stacy Davis Gates about education. Don't go away.
At ComEd, we understand a little help can really make someone's day. That's why we provide financial assistance and billing options to help you pay and manage your electric bill. Use the ComEd Smart Assistance Manager to discover bill assistance and savings options designed with you in mind.
The future of a community will always depend on the health of its newest members. That's why Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois is launching its new Special Beginnings program, elevating maternal health care to new levels, including advanced technologies, tools, and personal advocacy teams, ensuring new moms access to the right care at the right time. With each promising newborn, the promise of a brighter future also needs to be delivered. Fortunately, at Blue Cross, being there from the beginning will always be our reason for being.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message because you work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
That's the sound of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, saving you up to $500 on your energy bills. With rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products. So you can enjoy coming back to a home full of savings. Visit ComEd.com/home savings.
The future of a community will always depend on the health of its newest members. That's why Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois is launching its new Special Beginnings program, elevating maternal health care to new levels, including advanced technologies, tools, and personal advocacy teams, ensuring new moms access to the right care at the right time. With each promising newborn, the promise of a brighter future also needs to be delivered. Fortunately, at Blue Cross, being there from the beginning will always be our reason for being.
Trump's Project 2025 agenda will give him unchecked political power with no guardrails, and it would take Black America backwards. Project 2025 would strip away our voting rights protections, and it eliminates the Department of Education. It would also require states to monitor women's pregnancies. It bans abortion and would rip away health coverage for millions. Kamala Harris will stand up to Trump and his MAGA loyalists' dangerous plans to control our lives. Because Trump is out for himself, while Kamala Harris is for the people.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
What happened to cursory writing? I understand cursory writing is not in the schools anymore, which I'm upset about.
What has happened already? Signatures are electronic now. Signatures are very rarely on a triplicate. We actually, us old folks, have to actually take a deep breath and understand that we're not the center of knowledge. We're not the center of methodology. We're not the center of instruction. That these things are now more democratized, even within the school community. So actually providing the agency to young people to help shape that is going to be the actual win in this. Again, if young people are not engaged, if they are not having a good experience in the school community, they won't come. So the best way forward is together. Teaching and learning is relational. Right now, the dynamics that are rapidly changing, both in our city and in our, larger world, it begs a certain type of inquiry and an engagement with young people to see how they're consuming it. Right now, most of our young people are getting their news and information, values even, from social media. TikTok is a completely different universe. You can learn to cook, you can put makeup on, you can learn to do hair, or you can become a political commentator, or you can engage in Black history lessons. It is really a different space of learning where young people come from. And if we're not paying attention and engaging, being curious, we're gonna fall behind them.
Now, isn't this a great day to teach social science?
Yes.
Isn't it a fabulous day to teach social science?
Well, you have a Black woman of Asian descent who is partnered with a high school social studies teacher, governor of Minnesota, who's gonna run the free world. What does that mean to go from Obama as president, to a demagogue as president, to Joe Biden, and now to a black woman.
So we're seeing in this time, democracy at work for real, like we've never really seen it before.
We're seeing the impact of movements that have come before us. We don't get a vice president, Kamala Harris, future president of the United States of America, if we don't also talk about the struggles of the civil rights movement, the inputs of the war on poverty. One could say that Kamala Harris's ascent is due in part to the infrastructure that was put into America under President Lyndon Baines Johnson, in which he provided public schools with a great amount of resources that, quite frankly, helped Black children, poor children, working class children more than at any other time in our history. And if we're honest about it, it extended into higher education as well. Under his leadership, you get generations of first generation graduates who are Black. That's the power of policy. And quite frankly, that's what the right wing has been trying to marginalize for a very long time, are the gains of that particular presidency. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden doubled down on Johnson's infusion of resources to public schools themselves.
You supported, your union supported the mayor of Chicago
Yes.
in his election, and you won with Brandon Johnson.
Chicago won.
Chicago won. So you were very responsible for that. Should a union be involved with finance and staffing for political candidates?
So all of our union members, nearly all 30,000 of them, are residents of the great city of Chicago. So we not only work in our city schools, we live in all of the zip codes in our city. Paraprofessionals, teachers, clinicians. We're raising our children in this city. We're sending our children to the Chicago public schools. We are full investors into this city. And so absolutely our members who are 80% plus female, they should have a word about their neighborhoods. They should have a word about how they want their children to have opportunity in this wonderful city.
Your thoughts on banning books? We're seeing that in certain cities. Thank God, not Chicago. I think State Representative LaShawn Ford passed a bill that we will not have any banning of books whatsoever. What are your thoughts on banning of books?
Well, we're not banning books in Chicago because 80% of our public schools do not have libraries or librarians. If you are south of Roosevelt Road, yes.
Wait a minute, say it again.
80%, 80% of our schools in the Chicago public schools do not have a library or a librarian. And it is felt most acutely in schools that are south of Roosevelt Road. What does that mean? It means you can't ban something that you don't even have operational.
Is that part of your union negotiation at this time, is to
Yes.
advocate for librarians in schools?
Absolutely.
Libraries and librarians?
Yes, ma'am. So we want both things. And we want to start in the parts of the city that have been deprived the most of those resources. So not only do we want them, we want to make sure that our starting point is on the south side. We want to make sure our starting point is on the west side. You can't talk to me about reading scores while at the same time not having libraries.
So let's talk about the migrant student. We've had a new factor. We got a new student, the migrant student.
Chicago has always been a home since Harold Washington, a welcoming city, sanctuary county, sanctuary state. So our public school system has always welcomed in migrants. What has happened is that we've gotten more migrant families in the city than what we normally have, and that has put a stress on the school system. And what we're finding is many of our newcomers are being placed in majority Black schools. And in majority Black schools, we don't have a lot of bilingual support. So back to technology, many of our educators are communicating through their phone and other devices with their young people. That's not an education.
It's not good.
And it's not good. And it has to be a bit more planful. So what we've been saying is, what happens when a school district is faced with this? One of our contract proposals speaks to dual language academies, where Black children learn a language too. So many times when we talk about bilingual education, we're only talking about the young people who come in speaking a different language. What we want to do is expand the discussion, because we are a multilingual country. And so our Black children should be just as prepared to speak more than one language. And so the bilingual model, while useful and effective, it has to be expanded to include dual language academies, especially since we are seeing more migrant families settle in Black neighborhoods. Black children should have the benefit of being bilingual too.
We're seeing shootings in schools. We're seeing kids kill kids. We're seeing kids kill their teachers. Do we do anything structurally to teach our teachers and our kids to take cover, just like we used to do? I don't know if you still do it in schools, fire drills?
I'm going to answer this question, I think, in two ways. One, there's the mechanic of how you encounter an emergent situation, and obviously our members are trained, teachers, paraprofessionals, clinicians are trained to protect themselves and the young people that they have charge over. But also, as members of a union, as mothers, as fathers, as people who live in the city, they also want to make sure that the availability of guns are not as available. So they are advocating for common sense gun regulation.
Common sense, key word, right?
Well, yeah, and common sense isn't that common, as we have found out. So they want to do both. And yes, if there's an emergent situation, we should know how to protect ourselves and protect the young people we have charge over. And we are fighting against having to even consider and do that. And that will take some changes led by our policymakers.
Stacy, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for a vibrant conversation on education and on the union, and as you are working it. Thank you for your work. It's not easy. It's not, it's hard. And it takes a lot of dedication and commitment to do it. And congratulations to you, but most of all, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate having the opportunity to dialogue with you as well.
I hope our audience gets a real view of Mrs. Gates. As we look at the news, we just see, I'm sick of seeing these news clips. I'm sick of seeing these bites. I want you to have full opportunity to express what's really going on in these schools and how you view it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Studio.